Even hot hatch shopping rockets must move with the times. Clever EcoBoost engine technology, motorsport know-how and neat electronics have enabled Ford's Focus ST to do exactly that. Other top GTIs can offer more than its 2-litre turbo's 250 PS, but few of them can deliver a better driving experience. And isn't that, after all, what owning a car of this kind is all about? The hot hatch. This, we've always been told, is the kind of car that democratises performance, giving you the speed of a supercar within the body and the budget of something much more ordinary. Now, the reality is often rather different. What you actually get from most GTIs is usually the shell of a Super Mini, a set of spoilers and sports seats, and a turbo bolted onto an ordinary engine for short-term thrills. But not from Ford. The Blue Oval has a history of developing proper performance versions of its mainstream models, designed by enthusiasts to be driven by enthusiasts. Cars like this one, the Focus ST. ST is Ford speak for quick but not concussive, a performance level that sits above fast but family-friendly Zetec S models and just below track-spec RS derivatives. The kind of car a red-blooded racer could enjoy but still use every day. Which was a perfect definition of the very first properly quick ST Focus, launched back in 2005. That car was rapid, both in speed and in the way that its 225 PS 2.5-litre Volvo-sourced turbo engine drained its fuel tank in next to no time. The thirst was worth it though, thanks to a ride and handling balance able to keep owners not only in the wheel tracks of far faster GTIs, but also far more exotic sporting machinery. It was, as advertised, almost a supercar for every man. Today though, every man can't afford a fast family car that needs an expensive trip to the green pump every couple of days. Hence the need for a new kind of Focus ST. A car with Blue Oval motorsport DNA matched to more manageable running costs. And a car as adept at cruising to Silverstone as it will be when lapping it. To be honest, it sounds like a recipe for compromise, the kind of thing indeed you'd expect would be necessary from what is, after all, the brand's very first global performance model, a car developed in one spec for sale in over 40 worldwide markets. Ford argues otherwise. This, the road-going reality behind the company's claims, launched in the summer of 2012. We're going to put it to the test. Now, if you're familiar with fast Fords, then you might be forgiven for approaching this one with a few mixed feelings. On one hand, you're reassured by the knowledge that if anyone can put the 250 PS we have here through the front wheels of a hot hatch, then it'll be the Blue Oval brand. The old Focus RS 500, after all, put 350 PS through its front wheels. But that car only managed to tame the tarmac courtesy of all manner of mechanical magic. The so-called rever knuckle joint in the front suspension that cut out torque scare, and the clever Quaife limited slip differential that was there to get the revs onto the road out of really tight corners. Worryingly, this ST lacks both these refinements, yet with a rest of 60 capability of just 6.5 seconds, is only fractionally slower than its raucous RS predecessor. What on earth then would it be like out on the road? Let's push the power button and find out. First impressions are promising. You're perfectly placed low down on, or should I say in, a grippy Recaro sports seat that beautifully positions you for use of the lovely leather-trimmed ST steering wheel and the short-throw, sweet-shifting 6-speed manual gearbox. Beneath your right foot resides a 4-cylinder 2-litre turbo, rather than the old ST model's 5-cylinder 2.5-litre power plant. Now, but as ever, size is no guarantee of speed. And sure enough, this modern EcoBoost unit manages to put out 25 PS of more power and 40 Newton meters more torque than its predecessor. Even more surprisingly, it manages to sound just as good, thanks to a so-called sound symposer in the engine that offers aural fireworks when you want them, and refinement the rest of the time when you simply want to be left in peace. So far, so good. Where you'd expect to be let down, though, is when the road turns twisty, where torque needs to translate onto tarmac. Surely the supple suspension needed for motorway cruising comfort will compromise composure. And surely the tyres will smoke as the wheels vainly spin away all of that pokey power. And perhaps you'll struggle to feel any of it through the PlayStation-like electric power steering. Approach a hard drive in this car equipped with all these prejudices, and there are surprises in store. Let's start with the suspension. Offhand, I can't think of any car in the world that better balances the need for a supple ride with sporty handling. And if I were an engineer working for any competing brand, I'd be buying my R&D department of Focus ST as a benchmark on how it should be done. Whether the lap you have in mind is of Silverstone or your local one-way system, this Ford will be fine with it. Not that this is intended as a track day tearaway. If that's what you have in mind, then a harder edged hot hatch like a Megane Renault Sport will probably suit you better. Think of this car instead as a Volkswagen Golf GTI like everyday shopping rocket. That's nearer to the mark. That car's pretty good through the bends, but this one's even better, astonishingly so for a 1.35 tonne front-driven hatchback. Torque steer, that writhing at the wheel you get under hard acceleration, has been largely dialed out thanks to TSC, torque steer compensation. Now, what happens is that when this issue threatens, a little motor in the steering dials in an opposing force to counter it, while leaving just enough wheel movement to reassure you that you are, after all, at the wheel of a 154-mile-an-hour hot hatch. As for the lack of a limited slip differential to get the power down out of tight turns, well, it isn't there because Ford reckon it isn't needed. Like all Focuses, after all, this one has a torque vectoring system that lightly brakes the inside wheel as you turn, transferring torque, transferring power to the outside wheel where grip is needed. Now, these systems are similar to those that you'll find on expensive supercars like the 7th generation Porsche 911 or the McLaren MP4 12C. Ultimate technology then delivered in sensibly priced shopping rocket form. Something every GTI should guarantee. Ford has learnt sporting subtlety in recent years, to the point where you might even find this Focus ST's aesthetics to be a little on the modest side, especially if you opt for the more practical estate body style that's offered as an alternative to this 5-door hatch. There's no rakish 3-door option, but the stylists have done their best to spice up the two more practical body shapes that are on offer, with careful detailing that aims to emphasise a more muscular take on the standard model's kinetic design theme. To that end, there's a smart gloss black front grille, and at the side, between lovely 18-inch Y-design 5-spoke alloys clad with Goodyear Eagle F1 asymmetric rubber, bulging side skirts that emphasise the 10mm lower chassis height. At the back, a high-speed roof spoiler sits above a more dynamically styled bumper, incorporating diffuser-style vents and a sexy pair of Lamborghini Aventador-style double hexagon twin exhausts. The whole effect is somewhat colour sensitive, with an impact that works better with brighter colours like the ST-specific orange that Ford calls Tangerine Scream. And inside? Well, the cabin does just enough to set itself apart from that of more familiar Focuses, thanks to a custom ST steering wheel, gear lever and pedal set, and a grippy set of Recaro sports seats that can feature cushion length and adjustment. To your left on the dash top, there's a bank of ancillary gauges for temperature, turbo boost and oil pressure that you'll hardly ever look at, but that serve as a nice visual throwback to legendary fast Fords of the past, like the Escort Mexico. There's plenty of thought gone into the services of the things that you regularly touch, but cheaper, scratchier plastics are there if you look for them, most notably further down the centre console and on the doors. Still, it all seems to have been well screwed together by the Saarlouis factory, and plusher models like this one have a smart, glossy black trimmed Sony branded stereo. Plus, of course, it's all very practical. 3 passengers can squeeze across the back seat, though as usual in something family hatch-sized, 2 adults will be a lot more comfortable. And out back, you've a 316-litre boot with space underneath the floor for smaller items that's extendable to 1,101 litres if you push forward the 60/40 split folding rear bench. Go for the practical estate body style and the figures rise to 476 and 1,502 litres. Does a high-performance hot hatch really need to cost well over £25,000? Ford reckons not, and proved its point at the launch of this car with a starting figure for Focus ST ownership that was no more than about £22,000. That's nearly £5,000 less than a comparable Volkswagen Golf GTI, a car nearly 20% less powerful. Now, that figure, of course, applies to the entry-level Focus ST. Go for a better spec version like the one I have here, and the price differential to that Volkswagen will, of course, narrow very quickly. But even if you're tempted to specify your car with all the bells and whistles, you'll still net yourself a useful saving over slightly faster but less day-to-day usable top shopping rockets like the Renault Sport Megane 265 or Vauxhall's Astra VXR. Now, these two rivals are exclusively available in 3-door form, but only 5 doors are on offer here, either in the form of this hatch or for an £1,100 premium in the minority interest estate variant. Whichever hatch or estate Focus ST you choose, you should find it to be decently equipped. So you get the body kit, the 18-inch alloy wheels, plus inside a pair of figure-hugging Recaro sport seats, air conditioning, a DAB digital radio with Bluetooth and USB compatibility, a Thatcham Category 1 alarm, and a keyless start system. Now, that should be pretty much all you need, but if you do want more, then plusher versions like this one also add niceties like leather trim, heated seats, a Sony branded stereo, auto headlamps and wipers, a quick clear front windscreen, and bi-xenon headlamps. All nice to haves, certainly, but I think a law of diminishing returns is at work here. Personally, I would go for the entry-level version, then specify the extra cost performance pack, which offers up the wheels in a grey black with a high contrast finish for the performance brake calipers. I'd also want to tick the box for these neat door edge protectors that spring out when you open up. As for safety, well, you can expect to find all the usual electronic assistance features for braking and traction, plus a stability control system that, thank goodness, you can actually fully turn off if you want to. If all of that still isn't enough to keep you out of the hedge, then you'll be glad of the 7 airbags that come as part of the Focus's usual 5-star Euro NCAP safety showing. Should you wish to go further, then you can pay extra for a clever driver assistance pack, which incorporates a neat active city stop setup, building in a camera that constantly scans the road ahead for impending low-speed collision risks, and if necessary can actually brake the car to help you avoid them. There's also a system that stops you dangerously pulling out to overtake when there's a car in your blind spot, and a lane keeping assist setup to stop dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the highway. Let's not beat around the bush here. It was high running costs that did for this car's 5-cylinder 2.5-litre turbocharged predecessor, a spirited drive in which would see your fuel economy dropping into the teens. It also had a 224 grams per kilometre CO2 return figure that played havoc with your tax return. These are figures that saw this model very much out of touch with our recessional times. This wasn't a mistake that Ford were about to repeat. Hence, figures from this lighter, more efficient Focus ST that see it 20% more economic, thanks to a combined cycle fuel return of 39.2 miles to the gallon and a CO2 reading of 169 grams per kilometre. Now, these numbers should have a positive effect on residual values. Not enough to approach the kind of low depreciation you get on, say, a Volkswagen Golf GTI, but then you're paying a lot less up front. What else? Well, tyre wear at the front might be fairly dramatic if you habitually drive the car hard, so allow for that. And you'll need to budget for insurance, which ranges on the 1 to 50 scale between groups 34 and 36E, depending on the variant you choose. Now, we've seen more extreme, more red-blooded hot hatches than this Focus ST, but there haven't been many better ones, which isn't a conclusion I'd expected to arrive at, having perused this car on paper. Its predecessor, after all, was so quick, good-looking and likeable that I'd wondered whether this car could really be different enough from an ordinary mainstream fast Focus to truly justify its legendary ST badge. Would I find charisma to have been sacrificed on the altar of efficiency? As it turned out, I needn't have worried. What we've actually ended up with is the very definition of what a hot hatch should be. A guilt-free GTI with near supercar performance and technology that's relatively affordable, perfectly practical and everyday usable. It also has a quite brilliant ride and handling balance, which is one reason why, if you're familiar with previous fast Focuses, you'll find that this one has grown up a bit. But then, haven't we all? Ultimately, so many fast cars can feel, well, rather irrelevant. Here's one that's anything but.